I left Kabul, Afghanistan, went to Helotes, Texas, and ran for Congress. And I lost. And you know, at the time, I was not thankful for the loss, to be frank. But now I have been, because it gave me the time to really get involved in the private sector. I was a partner in a consulting firm. I helped start a cybersecurity company. Basically, you know, broke into companies and show them how we did it so they can secure their networks. You know, starting a company, helping you start a company from scratch, you learn a lot of things. You learn that one of the things that, you know, if you're the proverbial two guys or two gals in the garage, you shouldn't have to worry about a cumbersome tax code to start a business. You should be worrying about how to build a better widget, how to offer a better service, how to hire good people, right? And not worrying about these arcane tax rules. Because here's the reality: small businesses is what drive our economy. It's the majority of the businesses here in Texas, and we should be doing things to support them. And after that experience, I had the opportunity to run the 14, took it, got elected this time. I'm on Homeland Security. I chair a subcommittee on information technology, and I represent 29 counties. So this district goes from San Antonio to El Paso, down to Eagle Pass. 29 counties, 2 time zones, 820 miles per border. It takes 10 and a half hours to drive from one corner to the other at 80 miles an hour, right, which is the speed limit actually in 75% of the district. My staff has learned recently it's the speed limit in all of Texas. And it's a great part of the state. And I ran for Congress for 2 reasons. To be a leader on national security and the gold standard when it comes to constituent relations. And to be honest, a lot of what we do is helping communities, helping individuals fight the bureaucracy, whether it's Medicare, Social Security, veterans issues. And it's not just me. But I have the benefit of having my name on the door and my mug on the sign, right? But it's a larger group of people that I want to introduce on. Stony Burke, right here, is my chief of staff. He's from West Texas, grew up on a vegetable farm, went to Texas A&M University, and I've known him since he was 14 years old. And it's great having him and having someone to trust in that position. Tyler Lowe, that's one of our newest additions. Tyler is also an Aggie. We have a few on staff. Tyler's an Aggie. For the last year and a half, he was the counsel on the Homeland Security Committee. That experience, no matter what we do when it comes to the Department of Homeland Security, having someone of those with that experience is important. And he did his law school in San Antonio. Henry Rivera is one of our field reps and caseworkers. A lot of problems, when you have problems with Medicare, Social Security, Henry's a guy that's banging on the bureaucracy in order for you to get your resources. Jenny Tavares is from Fort Stockton, did some school at Saul Ross, graduated from the University of Texas at Austin. Have a few Longhorns too. We let a few slip in. And she crisscrosses the district often. Last but not least, John Arnold. John Arnold is a Longhorn, 9.5-year Army veteran, spent a significant amount of time dealing with the VA, and it's great having him on our team because he understands the inside. He's one of the guys that has helped us. You know, we're proud that in 2015 we closed out 242 veterans cases. That's a lot of cases. We're on track to do that this year. Right? No, absolutely. The reality is this. Congress has funded the VA to the highest levels it's ever been funded. But we still have a lot of problems. All right? We still have a lot of problems in process. And I had the honor of serving alongside our men and women that were willing to put on a uniform. I know the sacrifices they made. I know the sacrifices their families made. And we need to make sure we honor the commitment to them because they were willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice to keep us safe every single day and every single night. There's a program that I talk about a lot called the Choice Program, Choice Card. If you're a veteran, you need to know about it. If you know a veteran, you need to tell them about it. Choice card is far from perfect. But what this did was, if you had an appointment that was more than 30 days, or if you're 40 miles away from a VA center, you could go on the local economy, go to a local healthcare provider to get service. Now that local healthcare provider had to be part of the healthcare program, the choice card program, in order to do it. Now early on, VA wasn't paying their bills on time. So you didn't have a lot of local healthcare providers participating. Tri-West is a company that administers this program. They only had about 240 people to administer this in the western part of the United States. Now they have 3,000. Things are getting better. One of the things that a lot of our veterans were having to do is travel long distances just to get blood drawn. That's silly. You know, you can do that in so many different communities. We're working on a pilot program now in Del Rio where you can get that stuff done, you know, at the hospital there in Del Rio, and that gets forwarded to the VA, so it cuts down on trips that our veterans have to take. It keeps, you know, it lessens the amount of time they have to sit in a waiting room. And when we get these worked out, we're going to make sure that this is exported to the rest of the district. So again, we have a long way to go, and if some of y'all have veterans issues, one of the reasons we bring John out here is to get you to, you know, you got to fill out some forms to allow us to investigate some of these cases on your behalf. And this is, and I've learned early on, if you can solve the problem for one person, you can solve it for multiple people. And the reality is this: if one person's having the problem, then thousands of people are having the problem, right? And so we got to figure out this macro fix as well. The reality, well, I'm gonna say something that y'all probably agree with. Washington D.C. is indeed a circus. But here's the reality. Here's the reality. You can't believe everything you see on television and read the newspapers. There have been some successes that have happened in DC in the last 19 months. SGR fix. Yeah, most of the people in this room should know what that is. I know our healthcare provider over there does. We're actually pretty bad at naming things. We should have called this increasing seniors' access to good doctors while shaving $5 trillion off the national debt over 15 years. Because that's what it did. There was a formula that the way doctors are being reimbursed for Medicare that was decreasing every single year, which meant a lot of doctors were going to stop taking Medicare. We fixed that problem, right? To make sure that more doctors took Medicare to get to that, you know, our seniors can get health care. Medicare Advantage, another program, making sure it gets funded. My dad is 83 and my mom's 72. My dad has diabetes, has neuropathy, it's all kinds of problems. It's actually some of the best health he's ever been in. Part of it is because of these Medicare programs. And we got to make sure these Medicare programs stay strong for our seniors and near seniors. That happened this year. Anybody have children, grandchildren, or great-grandchildren? Probably everybody in this room. You should know about the ESS8, the Every Student Succeeds Act. What this did is repealed No Child Left Behind. There was No Child Left Behind. This is the one thing that Republicans and Democrats agreed on. There was a problem with it. And now there's no longer a one-size-fits-all solution to how we educate our kids. It's a big deal. Now, the states have to implement this. My fear is that the state is going to take a one-size-fits-all solution to implementing it within the state. That was not the intent. The intent was the way y'all educate your kids here in Sonora is different than how we educate our kids in Chicago or New York City. And you know who knows best how to do that? Y'all do. The teachers do. The principals do. The superintendents do. Now they have the power to do that. Because the reality is this. We have to educate our kids and our grandkids and our great-grandkids for jobs that do not exist today. The technological change we're seeing in the next 20 years is going to make the last 20 years look insignificant. And Congress actually passed legislation to fix that. Lifting the ban on exporting crude. Big deal. Nobody thought that was going to happen this year. Right? It's going to ultimately have an impact on where the price of a barrel of oil is. And it's going to make sure it's American men and women that are in these fields that are put to work. Because the reality is this, our energy sector is what kept our economy strong here in Texas and across the country. And the other reality is, you want to put Vladimir Putin in a box, you sell energy to Eastern Europe. Vladimir Putin and the Russians are not our allies. They are our adversary. And lifting the ban on exporting crude, lifting the ban on exporting crude has broken the back of OPEC. Because guess what? We can meet the demands, not only here in the U.S., but in other parts of the world. That kind of stuff happened this year in Congress, right? One of the other things that I've been shocked by, every year Congress has to reauthorize the military. The number of people that vote against that is mind-boggling, right? We do it every year. Now, prior to this Congress, the threats facing our country were increasing, and the funding of our military was decreasing. That makes absolutely no sense. We corrected that error this year in Congress. So again, we got a long way to go, but there have been some successes over the last 19 months. And that's one of the reasons I crisscrossed this district to talk about this. Since I got elected, I've gotten 14 bills signed, 4 bills signed into law. The last time somebody that represented Texas 23, where we live, got a bill signed into law was 2007, and it was a renaming of a post office. We have 5 other bills that have been passed out of the House. There's companion legislation in the Senate. First bill we got signed into law, Health Border Patrol. The way Department of Homeland Security was going to implement a new pay scheme, our men and women in Border Patrol were going to lose $700 to $1,000 a pay period. And they get paid every 2 weeks. Only Washington, D.C. thinks that's a way to do things. So we had a 1.5-page bill that prevented that from happening. Passed the House, passed the Senate unanimously, got signed into law. These are some of the things that, no nonsense, straightforward pieces of legislation. One of the other things, our national debt. All of our senior national security leaders have said our national debt is one of our biggest national security challenges. There's a couple of ways you solve that. Decrease spending, increase the size of the economy. We have a plan, tax plan, that increases the economy by 9%. That is a gigantic number. And that's not me interpreting that. That is independent organizations doing that. Fix the tax code, make the business environment in the United States of America the best place to work, right? Decrease some of those taxes, let y'all keep some of your own money and not send it to Washington, D.C. And here's how you solve some of the spending problems. I chair a subcommittee right, on IT. The federal government spends $80 billion, that's the B, on IT procurement. That's buying computers, software, things like that. 80% of that is on old systems. Stuff that anybody in this room would think is old and outdated. That's outrageous. Okay? Now, IT procurement is not a sexy topic. Nobody's going to hold a rally or a parade for IT procurement. But here's the reality. There is zero incentive in the federal government for the federal government to save money. How many of y'all heard of if you don't use it, you lose it? Right? 2 agencies in the federal government transitioned into the cloud from this old system, computer system. They saved $2 billion. Are they going to be able to use that to modernize other parts of their digital infrastructure to protect y'all? No. Right? So we have a bill called the Move It Act that says if you realize savings, you get to put it in a working capital fund for 3 years. And you can use that in order to upgrade your system, do other things. You have to have an incentive to save money. We do not have that right now in the federal government. Now, again, you can't put all what I just said in a 140-character text or tweet. But we need people in Washington DC that are willing to get involved in the nitty-gritty, getting down in the weeds, and change how we actually do business. That's how we make sure that we are being responsive to you. That's how we make sure that the money you send up there is being used effectively. And I'll end with this. The Social Security Administration has information on every single American. Our seniors are some of the most targeted by criminal organizations to do fraud. I had a hearing, the head security person in Social Security Administration. 9 months before the hearing, they had a test on how good their system is. They found thousands of problems. My first question to the head of security for Social Security Administration, I said, how many actual problems did you find? I don't know. I said, okay, how many of those problems were critical? Things that should be fixed tomorrow? I don't know. I then said, well, what are you doing to protect this information? And the response was many different things. And for those that are not too technical, many different things is not a technical answer to a technical question, right? Again, we need Congress's role, oversight, shine a light on these problems. Sunlight is the best disinfectant, right? And that's one of the things that Congress is doing. We need to do more, right? And there are some good things going on. And I'm gonna stop there because I want to hear from y'all. I speak in as many high schools as I can. I always tell the high school kids, I know what I know. I know what I don't know. But what I don't know is a larger supposed to be category. So I'm taking pearls of wisdom today as well too. So I'm gonna stop there. Thank y'all for being here. I want to hear from y'all. And I'll take a few questions. If people have some private questions, we're gonna stay a little bit before we have to get down on I-10 for our next 3 stops. Yes, sir.
We appreciate what you do for us. Got the chance to visit with the Hurd. One thing that's right now, Secretary Vilsack has carried the reins of presenting the imported South America is not bring the area. They control it by vaccination. If certain things, if we get that good to the United States, it is good deficit our economy.
Absolutely.
Not just talking about this.
No, I appreciate you bringing that. We've gotten calls in to the Ag Committee and folks to try to understand what this is. Because here's the reality. We don't even have fever tick under control in the southern part of Texas, right? This is a problem, and a secure food supply is so important to our national security. Mike Conaway, the chairman of the House Agriculture Committee, is a champion, is a Texan from Midland, is important on these issues. And one of the things, I went to Texas A&M, that was more the M than the A, right? But it's great talking to people that are involved day to day on these issues, on these things. This is something we're looking into, and we'll make sure to give everybody an update on the reason behind this rise, where this actually is. Yes, ma'am.
We were talking about Medicare. I'm a volunteer benefits counselor, and I can tell you that more advertisement and schools, our elderly need to be educated more because they have not the slightest idea that they will come 65. Also, the Advantage plan is not good, and I tell you why. Like our city and county does not accept that. So if those elderly are pushed in to take an Advantage plan because they don't know any better, they have to travel to Thunderbird and take them is now redoing the fare structure. So a lot of people are not able to go because there is no easy. So I would really appreciate if we could get more education out of Washington DC concerning our Medicare, Medicaid, and also Social Security.
No, good copy. I appreciate that. One of the things we've also done similar with veterans is, there's things like if you have to go to an emergency room and you have chest pains, right? You go to an emergency room. You don't pre-plan chest pains. Right? But if you're going to get reimbursed by the VA, you have to notify the VA 24 hours in advance, right? We've gathered some of these issues and things that you need to know, and we've sent it out to people. And so we can try to do something similar when it comes to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. And so I'd love to talk to you offline about some of those kind of key elements that most people are not aware of or get wrong, and try to understand what those top 10 issues are. We can talk with the actual agencies to do more of that, but we can also use our office to educate people on that as well. Yes, ma'am.
They have and they have to go to the emergency room. They have to receive.
Yeah.
They cannot take away because when there's an emergency, Advantage will pay for it, and a lot of people don't know.
Yeah. No, that's helpful. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you being here. This is my very first time in anything like this.
Well, welcome. Thank you.
I like to think with age, I get a little more wisdom. And you mentioned something earlier about the different committees or whatever, sometimes the higher ups, they don't know what's going on, at least from what I gather from the news. But what I don't understand is why in our government are there positions where they cannot be fired if they're not doing their job? And I don't understand that. Now, is there any way you can be up there and you can somehow introduce a bill to somebody that would change that nobody should be in a position where if they're not doing their job, they can't be replaced.
Amen. I'm with you. So the House actually proposed legislation. We passed it. Where and the stuff in the Senate, absolutely. And look, the reality is, a lot of times some of the unions come in that are against this type of thing. But we said very specifically, let's fire people in the VA. Right? They don't do their job. And yeah. So my first hearing, oversight and government reform. We have the head of GAO there. The General Accounting Office, right? They do a high-risk report. These are projects that are over $1 billion that are beyond, that run into time or fiscal overruns. Okay. I'm the junior guy, so I'm the second to last person to ask questions. And I asked the head of GAO, I said, sir, how long have you been with GAO? He said 40 years. I said, long time. I said, in your 40-year career with GAO, have you ever heard of a federal employee getting fired for a cost overrun or a time overrun? He strokes his beard for about 14, 15 seconds. And he goes, Congressman Hurd, I can't recall but I'm sure somebody was put in hot water. Right? 40 years. Now wait, it gets worse. So I asked some other questions. Hearing's over. I'm leaving. I have some of my colleagues, Republicans and Democrats, come up and pat me on the back and say, Hurd, great questions, man, great questions. And I'm like, why am I the first dude to ever ask if anybody's been fired for not doing their job? So I agree with you 100%. Right? I wish I had that authority. There's a whole lot of people I would. But here's what we do. Congress provides oversight. Right? OPM, you may have heard of this, Office of Personnel Management. Their information got hacked. 23.5 million records stolen on individuals who had done a background investigation with the federal government. Now, if a private sector company would have done this, they would have been millions of dollars in fines, and somebody would have probably gone to jail. OPM didn't even say my back. But here's what we do. We continue to hold hearings. We continue to investigate what actually happened. And the head of OPM stepped down. The chief information officer, the person that's responsible for security, ended up stepping down. They weren't fired, but they're no longer in those positions. Right? And we have people in there that are focused on making sure we're protected. So the way Congress can get them to do this, we continue to provide oversight. Oversight is such an important role, but we have to stay persistent. We have to stay on people. You know, everybody knows now. I may hold one hearing and they don't hear what we like. You're going to come back. And you're going to come back. And you're going to come back. And it takes people that have a background or experience in some of these issues in order to hold people accountable. Long-winded answer to your question, but I'm with you.
Well, you put it out to other people across the country that if they need to change their representatives, somebody said, if the congressman's not doing a job and the senator's not doing a job, that's what the voting polls are for, isn't it?
Amen. Amen. You're exactly right. I agree with you 100%. I may need to get you on the we need to get you on the news to a news blitz around the country because you're absolutely
I'm
right.
ready. I'm ready.
Yes, sir.
I tried that program. You know where the ones that go to 11 Apple. I don't call that local.
No.
Yeah, on top of that, they're trying to shut down this Kerrville hospital. They keep cutting off doctors and cutting off services, and it's slowly doing away with the services. They need to be reversed.
Look, I agree with you, and we also need to make sure that we have additional local healthcare providers to participate, right, that are closer than Abilene. And that's one thing that Tri-West is trying to do. And if there are some local doctors that you wish were in the program, let us know, and we can connect them to try to get them involved in this program so that you don't have to go to San Antonio or Abilene. And the reality is you know, the specific issue you may need, that doctor may not be near, but if there is one, let's work on trying to get them involved. And Tri-Rest is working to make sure they are getting paid on time. They're working through those issues. And so I'm sorry you have to deal with that. I really am. But again, if there's a specific issue for you, let us know and see John, and we can work on that.
The other thing, one of the things Kerrville he used to see doctor work twice a year. Now I see him once a year, and he phones me 6 months later to give him
I'd love to get some details on that and talk to them about why they do that.
But they're cutting back on doctors.
But again, they should not be using the excuse that they don't have enough money because they've been funded at a level that's higher than it's ever been. Yes, sir.
Thanks a lot for coming out. Appreciate it. Thanks for what you do for the veterans, and thanks for what you do for healthcare in general, particularly rural healthcare. I appreciate that. I've noticed you're a sponsor, a co-sponsor of several healthcare bills, so thank you very much for that. We've had 73 rural healthcare systems closed in 2010, 13 already this year. For Texas alone, by 2017, it's going to be a $5 billion problem for Medicaid. What do you see Congress doing in the future to try to save rural health?
Well, it started with this SGR fix I talked about in the beginning. Again, only Washington thought it would make sense that you're going to cut the operating budget of our community health clinics by 75%. We stopped that from happening, which was a big deal, right? Which was a big deal. And so that was the first step. We also got to make sure that we have a healthcare system that has more options, drives down costs, and is not increasing costs. One of the reasons that some of y'all have seen a lack of increase in your cost of living adjustment and Social Security, or increased cost for medicines on Medicare, is because the Affordable Care Act took hundreds of billions of dollars out of Social Security to pay for this, which causes problems. You're not using the ability to purchase medicines on the market, Medicare Part D, in order to drive down and get cheaper costs. The federal government, the executive branch, is trying to push you into a certain project. We all know increased options, decreased costs. And so, there is, if for specifics, we have our plan on how we want to reform healthcare. It's at better.gop, and that has about 67, points, specifics on how we would do that. But those are some of the broad brushes.
Thank you very much.
And one, before we get to you, sir, also thank our local law enforcement for being here, for what they do, for keeping us safe. It's a hard job, but we appreciate that. Yes, sir.
Two things. You made a real good impression when you came to the 100-year Sonora Rock Springs celebration in April. With all honesty, you made the biggest impression. We had a lot of dignitaries there. It was amazing how many people commented on your passion and how you spoke. We really appreciate you coming out into the country. The other thing that hadn't been mentioned is the waters of the USA. And I don't understand how they keep trying to bring that up when it's been voted down so often. The more of us that are trying to really improve the land, we're maybe in the crosshairs because we're doing things. We've got to slow the erosion of water and brush control. We don't need somebody in Washington, D.C. or Google Map in Temple or wherever telling us where to go.
Look, thank you for the kind comments, and you're absolutely right. Waters of the U.S. So I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but this is only to try to get on your land. Legislating a indentation in your land, right, or saying that a dry creek bed that hasn't seen water in thousands of years, that's not a navigable waterway. And what's happening is, so where it is, the House has passed legislation basically saying, hey, EPA, you can't implement waters of the U.S. this way you're trying to do it. Stuck in the Senate. We've done some appropriations in order to prevent the EPA from using funds to implement some of these rules. And there is a court case that's working its way to the Supreme Court from a number of states on this particular issue. And the federal courts have issued a stay. So this new implementation of the way this current EPA administration wants to implement waters in the U.S., there's a stay. They can't do it until the legal cases, rule. And even if it gets to the Supreme Court under this administration in a divided court, if they decide not to hear it, or it's a tie, it goes back to the previous court, and that means they can't implement laws into the U.S. So the reality is this, and you know this, your community knows this. All these new rules and regulations are going to drive up the cost of doing business. It's going to put people out of jobs, and it's going to ultimately drive up the cost of our food in the grocery store, our meat that we buy, the barbecue. It's crazy. And who does that hurt most? That hurts people that are on fixed incomes. Because if the cost of your groceries drive up because of legislation of some bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., it hurts all of us.
I see that all the time because I'm a cashier in our local grocery store in El Dorado, and I've seen, over the past 6 or 7 years, I've seen price of groceries go up.
Yep. No, look, absolutely. And a lot of it is because of these kinds of regulations that are going down the pipe. So again, on this specific fight, Mike Conaway, chairman of the Ag Committee, is out front and center. We're on board with him. And again, the lifeblood, the importance that agriculture plays here in this district is so important. And we're going to stand up and fight for it, because also I see it as a national security issue. Now I'm going to end with this story and take some private questions. We can take.